Hey, we are back, man. I'll tell you something, man. One of the most important things that my wife and I are beginning to learn on this investment journey is the importance of knowing when to say no and knowing when to walk away. Look, if a deal doesn't work, it just doesn't work, okay? You can't make it work. People are gonna throw all these type of hypotheticals at you to make it seem like there's a possibility it can work, but you gotta remember at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your credit, it's your whatever, your time, it's your legacy, it's whatever it is, it's your investment. And if you come across information and everything's reading that it doesn't work, you gotta know when to walk away. That's what today's video is about. Let's get into it. Hey, so before we get into it today, I want to take a quick moment. Look, I know I don't always jam it down y'all throats, okay? But it really does help the channel and also the material, I feel. And so do a few people on Amazon feel that the information is actually helpful. So before we get into the video, if you could, please take the time, all right? Check out some of my books, all right? If you know somebody or you yourself are going through the police application process, then you definitely want to cop a copy of Applicant to Police Cadet, okay? If you're getting ready to go through the academy, nothing can be better than graduating with honors, okay? Mastering the Police Academy. It's going to just give you insights and give you tips on how to stand out as a cadet. Look, I'm not always trying to jam it down you guys' throat, but the proceeds help me do what we do, okay? And again, I'm putting out useful information to you guys. Okay, so that aside, without further ado, let's get into it. Look, y'all, they straight up tried to Del Payne your boy again. And if you don't know the Del Payne story, you can check it out like here or there. Check out the link to that. That's going to be like our first home buying process and how terrible it went. They saw us coming a mile away, tried to take advantage of us again. And it was almost the exact same process, but this wasn't with our primary home. This was with our investment property, our rental property. Now, we're kind of like in a unique position right now because we technically have two rental properties, but they also technically don't exist because they're both new builds and they're currently still being built. This third rental property that we were trying to pick up is one that already existed. It was a little bit of an older home, but we liked what it was offering. It was cheap enough that we could afford the 15-20% down payment. So we wanted to make a move on it. All right. So let me introduce the house to you guys first. So it was a house in one of the opportunity areas that we identified here in Central Texas. I think it was originally listed at $97,000. By the time everything came together, we managed to negotiate it down to $82,000. Now, I wanted it a little bit lower, but there were some things in place that we understood them to be that actually ended up not being the case. But at the time that we were negotiating, we understood certain things to be in place and certain opportunities with that residence that would be afforded to us. And so we made our decision. We were okay with the $82,000 based on that information. So some of the things that were really popping about this property, it was an older home, I think built like in the 1960s, but it was heavily remodeled inside. New HVAC system, new roof, has some recessed lighting put in, new paint, all new vinyl floors, remodeled bathroom. The only thing that was really wrong with the property was the siding, which the siding needed some work, and the fencing. But we were willing to look past this because based on our market research, so you got to remember with our real estate agent, he has access to that area, but he doesn't primarily work in there. He primarily works in the area where we live now. But based on what we were able to do, based on the comps and the rental comps and everything like that we were able to do, we saw opportunity there. Also, this house already had a tenant, and the tenant was under contract, or still is under contract, until June of 2021. All pluses. So for us, the way we're looking at it is we're going to hop into this house and basically never have to pay a mortgage because the tenant's already in there, get things rolling, kind of close at the end of a month. So then that way we get the end of that month without a mortgage, the next month without a mortgage, and we're going to start the following month with a mortgage, which gives us a good amount of time, to get some prorated rent, then a full month of rent before we even having to start paying the mortgage on that property. So on paper and initially, everything looked good. That was a great investment. $82,000, 3-bedroom, 1-bath house on a really good plot of land, had a garage, had a tenant in it. Looking good. The tenant in there was currently paying $800. This is what we were told. Now I'll get more into this later. But what we were told and what we saw the leasing contract, obviously. Tenant was currently paying $800. Now this is what we were told at the table though. Oh, $800? It's like, yeah, the tenant's paying $800. I know that's low, but actually the only reason why that's the case is because the current tenant had a relationship with the owner. Like they know each other. They kind of have like a little working relationship. So she offered him that lower rent of $800, but the home can get way more. This is what was told to us early on when we were first negotiating, first coming out to go look at the property. Right? So we're like, bet we're going to make this rent right here, because even with the mortgage payment, all in property management, including everything, was going to be about $600. So we were like, a $200 clearing cash flow, and we never have to pay the mortgage. And then once that tenant leaves in June, we can then up the rent to $950, $1,000. Like this is a steal. Let's go. Let's get it. Like, it was not to be. And it's here where that Del Payne lesson came into effect, because as we got closer and closer to closing, things started to unravel, and there was red flags, just like there were red flags in Del Payne. The only difference is we weren't that young, eager couple that we were all those years ago. All right. And we were a lot more experienced, and we paid attention to those red flags, and we walked away. And this is the point of the video that I really want you guys to focus in on. So let's look at everything that went wrong. So now let's look at the systematic breakdown of all these red flags that started popping up. So first thing. And now look, this is just my personal experience. It's just me and my wife's personal experience. So keep that in mind. I'm just telling y'all what happened to us. Okay? Just telling y'all what happened to us. The first thing that started to go wrong, and the first mistake that I feel like we made, is that we took a referral. We took a referral for our mortgage broker. And if y'all know anything about me, and so far going through going through this investment journey, referrals have not been working out too well for us. Just look at my video, I hate property insurance companies. That was a referral. Okay, so look, I think that was the first thing, because when we initially started the loan process for the house, we were given a loan estimate. That loan estimate is what we further used to solidify our decision-making process, in that getting this property would be a good investment for us. We saw the numbers. The numbers matched up with what we were thinking. We saw our cash flow opportunity. We saw a little room for error, a little wiggle room. Choice. Fast forward 2 months. Numbers went completely left. And we weren't getting a good enough reason why. But by the time we got it, we were asking. Numbers don't look right. I am on that ass every time. We were asking, we were just like, oh, don't worry about it. These aren't the final numbers. 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 And I told him, I was like, well, if your loan estimates are any indication, I don't think I'm going to like what the final numbers are, because they keep getting worse every single time you send us a new loan estimate. What is going on? The price of the house goes down, but yet our cash to close goes up. It doesn't make sense. We put $1,000 earnest money and yet that's not reflected. Oh, it'll be put in there at the end. Then when he puts it in there at the end, he removes some other money that we were entitled to, so that basically the cash to close for the house stays the same and doesn't reduce. Then he also increases the monthly mortgage rate by, what was it, $50, $60. And when you're talking about cash flow, when you're talking about an overall cash flow of like $200, $50 to $60 changes the squeeze, changes the return on the investment drastically. So we were dealing with that on that end. So again, for us, referrals have been working out the best. That's red flag number one. The numbers were starting to look wonky. All right. Cash to close wasn't adding up. Our monthly mortgage payment wasn't going right. Starting to look crazy, right? We were being pitched to terrible property insurance companies. But that alone would have made me back out on this deal. But it was coupled with something even more sinister. Because unbeknownst to us, we were this close to falling victim to some elaborate circle jerk scheme that's running. Because we were in a smaller town, right? We weren't in like some big bustling town. We're kind of on a fringe area that's up and coming. There's opportunity out there. But the thing with these smaller areas is that there are some whales out there, man, some sharks. And this guy had it set up perfectly. So the title company that we were using, and then the property management company that runs it, and then the agents, and then the close, they were all owned by the same guy. The chick who was selling the house was the employee of the guy who owned these companies and owned like 500 homes in the area. And so systematically they were starting to play us. They were all in cahoots together, right? So there were different times I could think back on. We were first sitting down with the title company to turn in our checks. Randomly, guy comes in. He's like, hey, you guys are getting the 904 Houston house, right? He's like, oh man. He's like, yeah. He's like, man, I just got a house. It's a 3-2. Your guys is a 3-1, but the house, your guys' house is in way better condition than mine, and I just got 1050 for it. Like, you guys should be able to clear $1,000 a month easily. Now, this is a guy. Again, you take these type of things at face value, true, but you also have to take in the whole circumstance of what's going on. This guy works in this area. He owns property in this area. I would think that he wouldn't have any incentive to tell me other than what was actually the case, right? Well, it turns out that he did. They all did. They all had an incentive because they all work for the same guy. And just FYI, we never met this guy, right? Because, I mean, he owns the title company, he owns the property management company, he owns all these homes, he owns the real estate company, and they're all connected. I knew something was fishy when we showed up to sit down, and thank God we did. Quick lesson here. So the property was already under property management. So my wife and I set a meeting to go meet with the property management company to see if we wanted to keep them, what they offered, what their fees were, and decide whether or not we wanted to keep them or self-manage. Thank God we did this. So we drive up, we get to the property management company, walk in the door, meet the guy, shake his hand. He literally takes us through this back hallway, through a back door, and we end up in the same meeting room where we initially went like a month ago to go submit our checks at the title company. Literally connected. Let the guy go through his whole little spiel, and they offer some pretty cool stuff. But then I got to the point. I was like, okay. There were two things that jumped out. Big issues. First one, he was like, yeah. He's like, and that tenant, man. He's like, that tenant's on the bubble. He's like, they're on the bubble to get evicted because he's been having issues with his rent for the past 3 months. Now, we'd only been in this process like a month and a half, maybe 2 months. So for the past 3 months, the current owner, who works as an agent for the guy who owns the title company and the real estate company and the property management company. For 3 months, she's known that the current tenant in there, the one that they are highlighting that there's already a tenant in there and the property is already cash flowing, the tenant's on the bubble and hasn't been paying their rent or has been having issues or doing late payments, 2-3 weeks late rent payments, and is on the bubble for possibly getting evicted. But they didn't disclose this to us when we were initially looking at the property. But I found out. So that again, alone, is a reason enough to back out. But then I let the guy do his whole spiel. And it was so long. And they offer really good stuff. They really do. It was such a long pitch. Oh my God. And at the end of it, I was like, hey, so what's the real rent? What's the real rent for this property? Since I know that, the current tenant, has kind of like a little work relationship with the current owner, what do you think our real rent is? And he was like, real rent? He was like, we're charging it. It's $800. He's like, honestly, he's like, you look around for houses in your size in that area. He's like, you look around, we're probably 10 to 15% higher in rent than everyone else. He's like, you can maybe get $850. He's like, maybe. Now, if you remember, we back up when we were first there at the title company about a month and a half ago. Just by happen chance, one of the agents comes in and is like,
oh, you guys are getting a such and such house? He's like, oh, I just got my house. Blah, 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 blah. You guys should be able to clear 1,000. Easy. Such a good deal. Definitely get it. I wish I could get it.
Listen, bro. Listen. Snakes. All of them. Snakes. Haven't not yet met a snake doing this yet. They will get you if they can. And so I told the guy, I was like, oh, $850 at most. He was like, yeah. He's like, and that'd be pushing it. He's like, really, we're tapped out on this. So now, let's look at this whole thing. You think I'm about to put $16,000 down for a tenant that's already on a bubble and might need to get evicted? I'm not about to pay $16,000 just to walk into my first eviction. That's stupid money. That's a dumb decision. You must think I'm dumb boy. Not gonna happen. Then the mortgage estimate numbers weren't working. All right? The cash to close wasn't working. Right? The numbers weren't looking like they were what they were supposed to be, and we weren't getting an explanation why. All right? They increased the monthly mortgage payment by $50, $60. Forget that. There's one of them. Might have been in between that. So now that don't work. Now, also, the property management company, which, again, why would they lie, right? Because the more rent they're able to charge, the more we have to pay them per month. Is now telling me that the max rent that we can get isn't $900, $950, $1,000, $1,050, $850 tops, and that's stretching it. We really tapped out at $800, which means that we might not even be able to get another tenant at $800. We might have to list it at $775, $750. And now, instead of paying X amount a month, now we're paying almost $600 a month. We're paying almost $600 a month with the new mortgage payment estimate. Property management company was doing 10% high, but that's is what it is. So if they do it for $750, that's $75. Now we're at $675. We're only renting for that's less than $100. And I might potentially have to deal with an eviction. I ain't about to put $16,000 on that. So we backed out. When we backed out, when this all came to a head? Like 4 or 5 days before closing. And guess what? We walked away. And truth be told, I wanted my earnest money back too, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, this whole deal, and guess what? We wanted it. And on paper, it sounded good, but in practice, there were too many red flags, and we walked away. We were not going to force this deal to work. And oh my God, did they try to sell it? Well, that you can set it up to get the tenant out early in February and then do this and then list it. I was like, I am not interested in this house for a new tenant. We were interested because the tenant was already in place, paying a certain amount until June, and then we could then go and then get a higher rent afterwards. That was the smart deal. What you're pitching me now is I can pay you $16K to take on a whole bunch of nonsense and headache. That's not smart money. That's not a smart investment. All right. That's really the story, man. It's interesting. And by interesting, I mean frustrating. By interesting, I mean alarming. By interesting, I mean you get to see almost the worst side of human nature, because they see us as new investors, and really we are. And man, people will try to take advantage. I'm doing it. I'm like living it right now. I'm telling you for a fact. Like, go in with your eyes wide open. If you're going in with your partner or friend or your wife or whatever, both of y'all have eyes wide open, and don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to walk away. Remember, there is nothing they can do. There is no legal anything that can make you, they can't force you to sign those closing papers. And remember, before you do, especially if you're doing investment property, you're putting down a pretty sizable chunk of change. All right. It might not be a lot to some people, 16,000, but it's a lot to us. Like we made that money, all of that money in the stock market through smart investments. But it's a lot to us. Like, we're not just going to willy-nilly drop 16K on a bad investment. Like, it's not going to happen. So pay attention. Pay attention and walk away. They can't make you sign those closing papers. And it's going to be you on the hook for that large chunk of money. It's going to be you on the hook for 30 years. And you get into a bad enough deal, you won't even really be able to get out of it, because if you sell it, you might be under, and then you're stuck. It's supposed to be an investment. It's supposed to make you money. There might be some headaches that come along with that. I get it. It's real estate and you're dealing with tenants, blah, blah, blah. But listen, bro, like I said, I'd be damned if I'm about to pay somebody $16K for a tenant that's about to get evicted. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? And they wanted me to do that. They actually tried to convince me that it could work. Nah. So, hey, hopefully y'all got something from the video. All right, and if you did, don't rush out. Please, come on. Ah. Like if you liked the video. Comment if you got something to say. If you got a question, or maybe you had a similar experience. Maybe you haven't. Maybe everything's been peachy for you. Holler at me, because I actually need some good referrals for once. That'd be sweet. That would be sweet. So leave a comment. Share it. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I'd appreciate it. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Tell your friends about it. It's pretty cool here. Don't forget the books. Yeah, if you know somebody, it'd be great. Yeah, they're pretty good. I think so. But I'm also pretty biased. All right. Anyway, Xavier, CRC. I'm out of here. As always, stay blessed. I will see you guys on the next one. All right. Keep the eyes open. All right. I'm out.